LJLers, welcome back once again. I am joined by not quite Melvin Izzle and Midnight Caster, but two faces you all know in Initialize and Nightmare, the old men of the LJL OU.
I see how it is.
Do I need to
Stan.
shave my
Yeah,
face?
look,
Do I need to shave my facial hair or something? I don't know about that.
look, what's
We've-
happened is that Midnight was so distraught having cast Sengoku Burning Core yesterday that
He was
he
bad.
has departed and left me to carry on his will.
It was something of an extreme stress. We brought back the two classic casters for what is currently the El Clasico of the LJL. We have our first place strong. We've just seen them take a difficult but strong victory over Sengoku. We're looking at Rascal Jester here, and we're looking against DFM on a return to form. The scariest team in the LJL right now, in my opinion. We see a clash of titans here, gentlemen.
It is. And this is, make no mistake, maybe the most storied matchup in League of Legends ecosystem. It's up there. You have CLG versus TSM. You have KT versus SKT, although going into T1. And then you also have Rascal Jester DFM, which has just managed to persevere after all these years. Started in 2013 at the very advent of the LJL. And now it's come back to the top of the table. Rascal Jesters were the CLG in this relationship for a very long time, where they just struggled to make anything work. They're at the top of the table. They sit on the lofty mountaintop right now, and DFM have to swing for them. Now, isn't that a change?
I know. I mean, to add in a quick point here before we do move on, I want to say it hadn't been since 2014 that Rascal Jester had taken a regular season game off DFM. It had been years, literally. I can't quite remember the stat. I'll have to go hunting for it.
It was into the thousands of days.
But it was a long time, and they finally got their win in spring. And this year it has been an absolute pleasure to watch these teams come together and both be real contenders. Even if DFM came out on top in spring, and after yesterday especially, DFM looking mighty terrifying today as well, sets up for a beautiful matchup.
It really is. It encompasses the entire split. Week 1, game 1 was these two teams facing off to get us started, and it looked pretty convincing for Rascal Jester. DFM maybe not making the best of the short break they got between MSI and Rascal Jesters really going to the laboratory. It's all started to turn back around now, as RJ still look on form, but DFM have flipped the switch. They've got Gang back in, and it's starting to look really, really good again for our franchise side.
I mean, to step in on this one particularly, yesterday were two of the most dominating wins I have seen in the LJL, bluntly in World League of Legends, in a very long time.
The second game was something special.
Game 1, they were 8.1k ahead at 20 minutes. They ended the game over 14,000 gold ahead. Game 2, they were 10.4k gold ahead, up at 20 minutes, and ended the game nearly 20,000 goal ahead at about 25 minutes. They were absolutely dominating against two very different teams with two very different compositions even. It was brutal.
With that in mind, it all comes down now. The preview potentially of our finals, the best two teams in the LJL right now. For your viewing pleasure, take it away, guys. Pick and bans are underway.
It is going to be a match for the ages. Rascal Jesters on the blue side at 9-2. Detention FocusMe on the red side at 8-3. The first and second place teams, Rascal Jesters, got the early win in the season in week 1. DFM would love to get some vengeance after being on a terrifying tear over the last couple days. But we've got some bans going through. It's a lot of mid-focus plus Diana for the Jesters. A little bit more spread for DFM. Gwen first pick for Rascal Jesters. DFM thinking about responding for the Aphelios, which they have run fresh or not.
And the very last game, of course, that we saw between Rascal Jesters and Sengoku, we saw what Sol could also do on the Aphelios pick. It is such a powerhouse in the LGL right now. It allows teams to play snowball, wrecking ball bot lanes that can just roll across the map and just win any given team fight with the low-range diving picks, like a Gwen, like a Xin Zhao. Does make you wonder if DFM are going to pick it up this early, but of course with the Thresh band away, it's not got the choice lane pairing. Have to go towards something a little bit different. Of course, Youthborn and Gang earlier in the day ran it with the Nautilus. That worked out to quite some effect. So both teams trading off a lot of power picks right now. We're not going to be bereft of the full armories from both these squads.
Absolutely not. And next, of course, the Ziggs, which has been around and about
great.
alongside the Leona. I know Temporal on the desk thinks this is the pairing to go with the Ziggs if you want it. A lot of displacement, a lot of opportunities for lockdown, Satchel Charge plus a Zenith Blade. Yes, Ziggs generally want to sit back and farm, but if you do want to go in, you hit level 6, Solar Flare into Mega Inferno Bomb. It's pretty damn nasty.
Even earlier on, you can, you know, if a Aphelios is running up, trying to stack up the Conqueror, running the Severum, the Onslaught, all that other stuff, you can just bop him out the flank.
Yeah.
Take a decent trade, take a short one with your passive, round of spells. You out-trade the Aphelios in the very, very short trades like that. We've had a very storied matchup between these two teams.
We have.
But also we're getting the start of an epic saga between Ebby and Kanatu. For so long it was Ebby and Cogcog,
Yeah.
Ebby and Apperman, actually, particularly was one that we've seen over all of these years. Actually, ironically, we had Ebby and Utapon for a while
I
too,
know.
back when Utapon was
Was
the
the
top
top
laner,
laner, yeah.
and Ebby was over on the Rampage lineup. But Kanatu coming in as a rookie in spring, wiped the floor with Ebby in a Camille versus Gnar matchup, just said, all right, come at us, let's see if you can outplay us, and he promptly did. Ebby has gone back to the Gnar, though. His comfort pick of Legends, the pick which he destroyed C9 with even. We know how competent he is on this. Gonna have to pull it out again. And if DFM win, we'll even up the head-to-head between these teams at 1-1. And I'm gonna be cards on the table, show my bias a little bit here. I really want DFM to win so we can get another game between them for a
Yes.
tiebreaker for first. What a show that would be.
Man, yeah, it would be. I understand the bias because I'm right there with you. More of
More
DFM
of it.
versus
Just, I
Rascal
want
Jesters
more.
is so exciting.
Juggernaut match in spring, we had 4 matches between them. Finals, sadly, they didn't end up making it to
Yeah.
that point. So that's 4 plus 2 from the regular season. Got another 2 here. Then if we had 10 between everything here, we could have like 18 matches across the entire year between these two teams. And what a show that would be.
Interesting to note here as well, a lot of the high priority junglers are actually currently off the table as well. Trundle ban here as well by DFM to try and make Hachimachi's life a bit more difficult. Hachimachi was known for having a few interesting picks in the back pocket. I think back to things like Skarner and Kane, even when they were slightly out of meta, has often been a call for this guy. And I will be interested to see what that choice will be for the Jesters. Final ban is going to be the Braum. The Akali was taken away from Aria as well, who has been focused. DFM go for the Alistair as engaged, and also something that can defend against Leona coming at the Aphelios best they can. So I see the pick from Gang there. Could get a little rough in the early lane because you just eat a lot of bombs. It's a bit sad.
You do, but you're also relying on Aphelios just not being zoned off the wave.
Sure,
Aphelios
yeah.
gets access to the wave, one of the strongest champions of the game, in a similar way that champions like Draven or Xayah also need to just keep hitting minions either to activate their regular abilities or just give themselves the control over the wave that they want to start stacking and diving. This is ballsy as hell. That's an Ezreal, and that means that the Ziggs is going mid lane. Yes, the Akali's banned.
Aria
yes,
has counterpick. This can get real nasty.
Aria has counterpick, and so very funny thing about early today when we were watching the DFM CGA game in the green room and kind of chatting with everyone else back there, I just found it so funny that Aria was put into position to 1v9, and Melvin is all set on cast. Oh, DFM just need to wait for Aria to 1v9. That's what CGA did for an entire year. That's what they've been practiced at doing. Aria, red 5 counter pick. This is his bread and butter, where he was forged to say, look, you got the skills, kid. Can you show it on the stage? Aurelia is not up. The Silas is one of his strongest picks in his career history, though. And this is a pick which we've seen him go 25 Magi stacks on time and time again. It's been a good long while. It's coming back here, it looks like.
There's no Blitzcrank for Rascal Jester this time, but there was a time in
spring
2020 where there was a 25 Magi's game for Aria, and it would have been vivid at the time for Jesters.
Oh, what a
who
guy.
managed to get the hook into the silence to shut him down. It's different names, it's slightly different org for Aria. Just slightly, you know.
Yeah.
But there's got to be maybe just a little bit of a hint of a story there. Sol on his infamous Ezreal as well. Link back to the Juggernaut match in spring as well, where Utapon and Sol were taking turns to hard carry on the champion. And we're left with 2 very distinct team comps, of course. Big long-range poke and explosion from the Ziggs and the Ezreal, with a bit of dive coming in from the Leona and the Volley Bear particularly. On the other side for DFM, Silas, last pick for Aria, has me very excited.
Silas is Aria's second most played champion across his entire career. This will be their 14th game on the champion, and they're currently set at a 76.9% win rate with a 12.8 KDA. We've seen the LeBlanc earlier in the day. That was also their 14th game on that champion. They went 16-0-7 to bump up their career KDA of 21.3 on that one.
He's not died this year.
He's not died on LeBlanc this year. Silas, he hasn't played this year, and oh my gosh, am I ready to see it here on the Rift. Recap has thrown down the gauntlet and said, yeah, we're going to flex this into mid lane. Come and counter pick me if you can try. Aria's then picked one of his signature picks into it. Does have the volley bear for the early pressure. The level 3 ganks are going to be something I'm personally going to be looking out for, see if you can set that player behind in the mid lane. I love the fact that both of these teams have their power picks, have early playmakers too. We want to see this all fireworks all the time.
So at this point, I know we talked a lot about the bigger picture storylines that are coming into this, some of their histories that these players and teams have, because that's very important in this matchup with where both teams are at. Don't get me wrong, but you started on the volley bear early ganks. There's a couple bit more of the mechanics, the minutiae, the hows and whys of how this game is going to be played in the early game. Particularly, what are you expecting outside of those volley bear ganks that we should be looking for in this game with the comps we have now got locked in?
So a lot of this is going to be all up in the air. That's the very dangerous thing, because you look at Gwen, you look at Gnar. Gnar normally is a champion which can lose at level 1 to level 2 against such early game powerhouses like a Gwen. If they do start eating towards you, of course that changes with the bone meringue being thrown out. But Ebby is a player that just tends to exceed the matchup and what you expect of it. The same can be said about Aria, but Recap, of course, has solo killed Aria, not just once, but several times this year, in a fashion which we just didn't expect out of our 2020 season MVP, well, just behind Boogie and Reiner. You know, this was the mid lane MVP for our region. Coming into this one, of course, high expectations for both of these teams. We expect that one of these teams will be representing us at World. These seem to be the two clear-cut teams. This is now the real benchmark, the breaker between the two to say which one of you is actually ready, which one of you is worthy at this point to go further forward. And the fact that this is about execution, this is about going to the laboratory, as Temporal was saying on the desk, and of course the Rascal Jesters back in 2020, they were our mad scientists, so how apt is that? This is a game now where I look at this and I say, early playmaking across every single one of these lanes, junglers that can get right into the thick of it with the Shinzao and a volley bear too.
About as aggressive junglers you get.
This is the perfect script for a perfect storm.
No other way to put it. I mean, it is there. I think my eyes do have to turn to the jungle there in terms of where a lot of that early agency is, because Volley Bear and Shinzao are notorious for their abilities to blow things open early on, and DFM looking for an early invade on the bot side here. Recap is around, but has wisely stayed away from the jungle entrance, and it just be some wards put down. Kinatu and Hachimecha will look to do the same and reciprocate on DFM's red side of the jungle, but Ebby's actually walking up to maybe make Hachimecha's life a little bit tricky.
Yeah,
and as I said that, it's just a sickle.
It's not first blood, it's first something.
It's first auto attack. You know, that little bit of HP, it's game over. Hachimecha can't come back from that.
The one auto diff. I mean, honestly, what can you do at that point?
Nothing. It's doom.
Gosh, and DFM saying, we came, we saw, we conquered, with all of those runes picked in. Of course, there's an aftershock to bring to bear that who would have been very surprised to see a Conqueror Alistair. That seems more like Season 4 Alistair tech, if that rune existed back then. Back with Emperor Palpatine.
That was silly.
Very silly, but very fun. So there's a reason it was 100% Ban Raider World in 2014. But we don't have to reminisce too much about that now. Too much history going on. Let's go focus back into the present. Aria
lands it. Abscond, abduct, goes forward. Recap takes a bit of an ugly trade, but does his best to turn it around, of course, with the bouncing bombs. The ranged autos could get a little bit nasty as well, but does force the early pot use out of Recap, who doesn't get the refillable that Aria does because he started with the Dark Seal, so gets a little bit more efficacy out of those potions himself. Blitzcrank San giving the edge over to DFM minutely here.
Yeah. I love the fact that you can look at what Gang's playing and you think, ooh, this is something they practice all the way through spring. It's one of Kazu's 4 champions that he played. So a little bit closer to the spring archetype of DFM. But like we were saying, Aria back on a signature pick on a carry that can 1v9. And at every time of asking, it has seemed that Aria is just in a position to go back to his carrying ways in a way that DFM actually hadn't leveraged in their history so far in terms of this lineup of these 5 members. And it's very important to me to show that they can, at the time of calling, focus on their star players and say, put up, get those carry performances in.
both junglers pathing as quickly as they can towards the top side of the map. Moonshot hits onto Secret, so he takes that long-range auto from Utapon. Arya behind, just a touch in CS, but we'll clear up some of this wave here as well.
But the wave's in a good spot, right?
It's not in a bad spot, exactly. And it's also just very long range in a Ziggs versus a melee matchup. You know, it is somewhat expected you drop a couple CS in his first wave.
In a solo queue matchup, you all in, you make sure the Ziggs is off the wave. Can't really do that with the volley bear waiting in the wings.
Nope.
You know where your jungler is, but if you ever misstep and you die early, that is suddenly where things really start swinging around. So he's still going to collect that wave of the tower, understands that at this point in the game, this is not his time to really have agency, but we are going to have two pushing lanes for Rascal Jesters on the top side, securing Hachimecha at the top lane. Scuttle still not contesting for that.
Yeah, all lanes shoved in right now for DFM, so going to be the double Scuttle likely here for Hachimecha, because just not an easy option for Steel to get in, which is good news for Hachimecha and the Jesters in general. Good use of the pressure range advantages.
That's a good band name.
Good news for the Jesters.
Good news for the Jesters. Or...
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
I could go for that. I'm not sure what genre it would be. This one seems like, I mean, the game sets up for battle metal. I'm not sure that's a title with appropriate gravitas to it, but we can work in progress. Work in progress. We'll keep an eye on chat, see if anyone's got better ideas than that.
I'm now copywriting the name. Good news for the
Good news for the Jesters.
That's great.
Good news, everybody. Good news, Jesters.
just start that as your sound would be great.
Yeah, that's the one. Sadly, not in year 3000. I wonder how many. That would be a lot of seasons of League of Legends. Do you reckon? I don't know if it'll survive a full millennia.
I don't think we can play it underwater either.
No, sadly not. But dreams within dreams for that one to happen.
That is a very old reference to a band that I don't even know if it's functioning anymore, despite having combined with McFly briefly. But anyway, let's move on from that.
Busted is timeless.
Busted is that. So the year 3000 is certainly not. It's tied to the year 3000.
That one's technically in the calendars, yes. Back to the game at hand. We have seen, and this is why I want to point out in the early game, because we saw what was potentially happening with Hachimecha looking in towards lanes, going towards that Scuttle using the full court press. We are seeing a slight CS advantage across the board from DFM, though, particularly in that top lane. The Gwen actually falling behind the Gnar right now. As you said, Ebby on the Gnar. This is a champion which can suffer early if you just get mechanically outplayed, but Ebby exceeds the matchups more often than he does not, and really wants to stamp his authority over this young upstart Kanatu, who did slap him once or twice in the earlier splits.
Indeed, and checking out those first jungler routes as well. Not really about the top lane there, but it is about spotting that, you know, Steel had to back away, had to reset, and he does give... Right, he did give the double Scuttle over to Hachimecha, even if it doesn't show in the camps right now, but you can see, of course, that Hachimecha does have those camps available. Still going to start up the Grom.
It's been pinged out, because Hachimecha did ping
Smite
this.
available.
Both smites available. Pressure topside, though.
All right, Steel's probably going to have to back away by the looks of it. There's the wind becomes lightning. Ebby going to be forced away from Kanatu, and Steel just has to back out of that attempted invade. The ward will stay down for now, though, so not entirely wasted, but... does not manage to get all that much done on the side of the map, but he didn't really have any camps up either, so it was invade or gank really in terms of what you get done on the map.
It's an opportunity cost. At the end of the day, he still gets the pink ward in the enemy jungle. We'll see what Hachimecha is doing for the next minute or so. That might be able to help out his lanes play a little more aggressively, as we were saying. In a solo queue style matchup, many of these things can be very aggressively played until you realize the volley player is running at you. If you know where he is, less of an issue. So Steel doesn't get too much for that cost. Volibear, however, just naturally slows down in farming. Not the fastest farmer, but into the mid-game. Although Hachimecha will be a force to be reckoned with as yet another one of those temporary front lines as the front line of Gang stops the Zenith Blade.
Udapon trying to heal up best he can. Does still have Flash, uses it. Now trying to get away from Secret. Still on top and got the Ignite, and this is looking like first blood going over to Rascal Jesters. Gang flashes in, puts the Ignite down, needs to see whether that will finish up. Doesn't look like it. And the Jesters just find the engage they were looking for.
The 2v2 goes to the way of the Jesters. And how does it... The Scuttle steer from Steel is very nice there. Utapon holds on to the cleanse and wants to cleanse the Ignite. There's no heal here. There is one for Soul, and that's what saves Secret. And Secret, and of course, ends up getting that Ignite after the cleanse is used. Gonna see how it all ends up, because I think it starts basically with the Ezreal W dropping, and you say, all right, okay, suddenly we have our Conqueror stacking up further and further. Zenith Blade lands, and even though the combo is interrupted by Gang onto Secret, Utapon is continually taking damage throughout that. Sol and Secret showing why they are, right now, the premier bot lane in the LJL, although Utapon and Gang seriously wanted to contend with them, they've lost out at this turn.
Yeah, it was a close one. Gang did a really good job of body blocking a lot of the Mystic shots, but the owner damage early on with the Ignite just a bit too high. The heal difference was pretty huge there, honestly. And that leaves us with a fairly tense early game Secret. Use this opportunity to try and get towards the top side, but Ebby, a little bit wise to that opportunity, is just staying a long way back.
He knows he's minion right now. Doesn't have the high basic stats to try and outplay a situation like that. Secret immediately gets tier 2 boots, not the Mobies, it's the Tabby instead, and just runs topside and says, alright, bot lane secured, mission accomplished. Let's go do something else, let's go ruin the map. Hasn't quite ended up that way, however, though. Ebby, as arrogant as he can be, or confident, there's a fine line between the two. Ebby doesn't get caught out just yet.
Yeah, well, there's that fine line. Ebby largely, though, perhaps has earned his arrogance over the years here in the LJL. Sol takes a bit of a chunk, but so does Gang, and this is the opportunity cost of going for Herald. We've used that phrase a few times this game, but that's largely because it has been very relevant. Jesters will secure the Scuttle Crab with only 2 members, which is great news because it means you're not losing too much farm on the other side of the map for the chance to go towards that pretty low opportunity cost, you might say.
So what you say, so you have lost a plate down bottom for roaming your support up and allowing the FLS and the Alistair to push in. The reason this isn't 2 plays and 3 plays isn't more is because that 2v2 came in. That is how crucial it was. Rascal Jesters now have a very strong point of power. Of course, they have the producer's stream has died, so we're bootlegging it just for one more time as we're trying to catch up as things are going on and on. Let's see how it's going, Sam.
Hey, alright, well, we get to catch in now. Unfortunate timing for our producer's power to literally die. That is what you call incredible timing. And we'll just rapidly move the screen as we're going. Big shout out to Nymera for sorting this as we go. Rascal Jester picked up a second kill by the looks of it somewhere in the game, but the gold still pretty close. Looks like Ebby managed to get dived on at some point in that top side and did go down up there, but we're left at a point now with just about 1,000 gold and an early drag into Jesters. Not too much more to write home about right now.
No, not just yet, so trying to catch in on things. Sadly, we were running around like hamsters in the background, trying to get all those cogs turning, all the wheels turning. Sadly, of course, that means that we've missed just a minute or two of footage. But as it stands right now, we have a gold lead to Rascal Jesters. The kills are onto the volley bear. That's good. I assume that we ended up seeing that ultimate used towards that effect. And of course, we saw the earlier 2v2 coming in from the Rascal Jesters bot lane. However, DFM not out of the gold share just yet. We know that they're 2 item spikes. When you have something like the Everfrost going into a Zhonya's or a Cosmic Drive from the Silas, you're very happy with things. And Sol is really putting down the pressure bot lane before Yutbon can reach his 2 item spike of that Collector and of course the Shield Bug.
Absolutely doing his damn hardest. It is the Essence Reaver first as well here. Nothing like a Divine Sundra, nothing like a Duskblade. Looking potentially mythicless here, but the damage doing pretty good work. Fortunately so. And with all this said and done, you can see plates favouring Rascal just because they managed to be in range for that additional 1, which is good news. They'll secure first tower as well, and that will balloon the goal lead a little further.
So what I really need to see now is Rascal Jesters, where does the hammer blow fall next? We have seen bot lane crushed through. The Aphelios, his game plan is normally to push in, get plates, get that lead, reach that 2 item spike, and have a higher level than the opponent, just to have more HP, resist, you name it at that point. Then DFM have not got that play pattern to play around right now. So for me, I look at Rascal Jesters, what you're aiming to do right now is to starve the solo laners of options to enter fights in the way that they would really like to. Arya, Ebby, they're getting towards their first items. They're at a point where they really can start ingressing into the enemy jungle and start trying to look for angles of attack. Herald is currently live, DFM are going towards that. They won't be going towards the dragon just yet, but if they can crack open a mid-tower, I think they'll be very happy with it.
Secret's gone for a bit of a roam, and he'll find Ebby, who puts down a control ward to deny some of the vision put down, and they'll give up this second Drake will DFM, but they've moved their AD carry to the mid lane, as we kind of mentioned, and puts Arya up towards this top side alongside Steel and this Herald, and that will be what they look to trade for. Some gold on the plates, some items to come through, because of course they were shy some of those mythics. They were shy that second item, as some of these people want. You know, obviously Arya not at a completion on something like the Everfrost yet, which would be a relatively big deal. And you can see DFM just waiting just that touch before they feel ready to fight. Steel is held onto the Herald, so can use that still to try and break down another tower and find some advantages for DFM elsewhere. Leaves the gold only about 700 or 600 apart at this point. Very tight game.
Yeah, it is tight, and that's what we wanted. We wanted an even matchup between these two teams to really showcase what happens when they do have to fight without just snowballing. Fight with a chance that they might just get outplayed. Because actually, when Rascal Jesters lost to Axes, I was sat there thinking, actually, they just got out team fought at that point. DFM, when they have lost against V3, actually, I thought, yeah, actually, they just kind of got a bit outplayed. When they lost against Rascal Jester the first time, though, I thought, maybe they just shouldn't have picked Ezreal Lulu with no damage, and maybe Secret shouldn't have walked into top lane.
He's in a bit of trouble there. There's a Solar Flare with some AP behind it. There's a Wind becomes Lightning, and a bit of damage from Mega Inferno Bomb. Does very little apart from light the funeral barge for Secret, who is put down in the jungle of the Jesters. First kill on the board for DFM, and that means the gold is pretty much even, and there's a Herald play coming to try and make this even more powerful for DFM. But of course, not a bad amount of damage being done towards this Herald. Might not get the charge, does just about get through, and they get a chunk onto the tower, but not too much more.
Well, mid lane out of tower is, as I was saying this yesterday, probably the most important early game objective that any team can aim for. Particularly when we've got a control mage that doesn't want to be walking up against a Silas, Xin Zhao, and the ability to start engaging around the back of turrets, even with an Alistar ult, right? Ziggs wants that position, that forward operating base, to start going out across the map. And by the way, I cannot wait until we see the Infernum Ultimate, the Mega Infernum Bomb versus the Mega Inferno Bomb. So we have like a whole conflagration of various explosive effects going across these team fights, which we were promised, we set up the storyline.
The Mega Infernum Bombs, just lots of explosions.
Oh man, we have the Mega Infernum Bomb, the Mega Infonum Bomb. No, so you've got like.
I see what you mean.
So you've got Mega Inferno, but then if you place like Mega Info with foe.
Inferno, I just did an N-A-O-U.
Yeah.
Right.
Mega Inferno Bomb, and then the Mega Infernum Bomb. Really, we do everything in triplicate here. We make sure we've got our paperwork done. And Arya's done his due diligence as well, clearing out top side, going to walk up still a volley barrel for some... At this point in the game, because of course he's level 12, he's going to get the second rank of it. Second rank of volley barrel has really good scalings on it. If you land that onto a stun target, they die, plus it's the extra tankiness too. It's not like a Alistair ult, but it is still a good chunk of damage and HP you can use to bring to these mid-game fights in particular.
I mean, there's not a single bad ultimate for Arya to steal this game. True Shot Barrage, Solar Flare, Mega Inferno Bomb, Stormbringer, Needlework, even
Needlework
additional
for the
healing
1v1,
would be fantastic in the 1v1.
Like, I mean, let's be honest, if you're walking up in an elongated lane towards Silas anyway, you kind of deserve to die because of his amount of CDR. If you're doing... Oh, Ebby's going for a big flank here. Maybe I have to cut off that point. He has Flash, he has Hop. What's he going for?
Look at Arya on the side as well. There is a volley barrel available to shut down the tower. Here he goes! Tower is shut down. They're going to try and find something, but Ebby does not find the Mega Knight. Tower is dead, though. Look at the turnaround, though, from the Jester. It's still not enough. That Crescent Guard was huge. They get 2 kills. They're going to get out. The True Shot Barrage, though. Not quite enough to take down Ebby Gang so low. He's going to get 1, but he's only going to get the 1. Kinatu was not there. Did teleport it towards the bot lane to at least trade back. And in the end, that is still a net positive play for DFM.
It is. Sol's still turning around with the hero play. He had a heroic game earlier today, and another performance coming in to clean up what he possibly can. We talked about Arya being put into the 1v9 position earlier in the day, potentially being in that position again with the Silas, one of his signature picks. Sol doing his best to be put into the conversation too, though. DFM skirt around the vision. While there is so many people responding to this play from Rascal Jester, the Flash, the Crunch, Ebby doesn't find the best combo ever, but it's still enough to get the tower, one of the most important objectives like we're saying, and walk out with 2 kills, rather. The third wasn't even there, it was Gwen in the bot lane.
And it gets so many summoners out. They all come in, they see Ebby, and they just have to flash away. And the problem is, Ebby can do that again. Like, that's not the... Like, there's so many ways for DFM to kind of find an angle and go in. You've got Alistair and Silas with all those ult we saw about. And a Jin Zhao. And, of course, that Gnar. Like, this...
I love that play.
This Ziggs, this Ezreal, yeah, there's some defensiveness there, but they've got to be a little bit afraid now that if they do step forward, they do go too far, DFM have got enough ways to pounce. They've lost the mid-outer tower now as well, and DFM looking to set up for this dragon that's be spawning in about 15 seconds. Ebby has teleport. Mega has just popped, but the 1-3-1 options here from DFM, pretty strong, but Jesters, they've got 2 items on Sol. They've got a lot of Lucidity boots for all the cooldown, or rather ability haste now in the world, and they might still look to fight this, but it could be a bit difficult if DFM can find another one of those big flanks with some of those key summoners being down.
So Hijack is still available. I don't think the Volley Bear ult will be. Kinatu just dashing forward because they don't have a Skarn of Duck. They can't end up throwing out chains after that point. Arya, what's your weapon of choice? What are you going for? It's the Solar Flare. It's the Engage. They're looking for the fight.
Kinatu gets 1, but there goes 2. He goes in with the Crescent Guard. The damage is just obscene. And now they're into the pit. But wait, Shinto is dead. There's no smite. And Kinatu in the backside is running them all over. It's not so much snipping as it is a guillotine. And the kings, the nobles of the LJL, are fighting themselves under the cosh of a revolution. But Arya, wait, he's turned it around and he finds himself a double in turn. I have no idea who secured that one. It looks like on the scoreboard there was a slight error and the Jesters do get that one at least.
They do, because Steel dies halfway through the fight. They don't have the smite and it's a 2-for-2 after that point. DFM, they traded a lot of their opportunities that they were given to them for plays, for dives, for kills. They've given up a soul point. Rascal Jesters not behind in gold enough to shut out of this game. They are very much in a position to fight as it goes on. This starts with Steel and Arya looking for an engage, but Sol is untouched. Hachimecha gets out of the pit, and you can't exactly distance a Ziggs away from his damage either. Rascal Jesters is still fighting on the battle lines that they are happy with. Hachimecha flashes back in for that smite. DFM still win the ensuing play from that point, particularly with your Conqueror stacked up on your Aphelios and your Silas as well. It's enough to get them some kills, but it's a consolation prize at best.
how many broken stopwatches do we get out of that play is what I have to know. Double Zonya is now complete for the mid laner, so at least they've got those, and you can see the damage there from Gwen, from Ziggs, from Sol as well there, yes. And it's not like DFM put out bad numbers, but Kinatu, that teleport, everyone else went out the pit, Kinatu goes, my time to shine, you burned the burst, and you didn't hit me. And Needlework is pretty goddamn strong, it turns out. But now
Shinto's
Kinatu,
coming down.
quite a long way shoved up. Halib Mist is popped. Has got, of course, the snip. Doesn't really hit, though. That's a big deal. There's going to be Meganar coming in. Has got Needlework, but is going to get stunned into the wall. And now trying to heal up best they can. But they've run out of options, surely. And they will drop to steal. Big pickup there.
It is, but Baron start on the top side, 23 minutes in, and when you have the Ezreal and the Ziggs, you have consistent DPS at that point. You can even spam through your spells, extra short fuse passives from the Ziggs does give you one of the higher DPS numbers from a mage in the game if you are just rotating through everything. DFM, though, managed to stave off that Baron attempt just by showing their faces towards the top side of the map. Rascal Jesters lose a kill for nothing at this turn.
They do at that, but the Jesters are now, of course, been behind in gold ever since that mid lane tower play. And Ari's actually caught onto Hatch and Mecha, does a fair amount of work, but won't chase any further with Secret being behind there. Ebby's going to get onto this tier 1 in the bot side. DFM splitting the map wide, but of course Jesters in those combined, condensed areas for the 5v5s have secured themselves soul point. Infernal Soul on Ziggs, Ezreal, even the Gwen is absolutely imperative for DFM not to give that over. It is so much worse in a comp like this that can proc it so easily from so far away, so safely. And the Jesters have still got a win condition, have still got options in this game. And honestly, even if there is that goal, even if there are the map-wide plays for DFM to make, it's still anybody's game.
Absolutely is. We have a 2-item spike now. Onto the Utapon Aphelios as well. It's matched by 2.5 items, and actually probably exceeded, of course, because 2.5 doesn't equal 2. Funny how that works. Of the Essence Reaver and the Muramana. So no longer the Sundra build coming out of the Ezreal in this game. There's much more crit, of course. It gives you higher AD values. Your consistent damage is probably better at that point. Particularly if you aren't hitting hyper tanks, you're not hitting people with large amounts of resist. Sol is going to be a massive threat carry, carry threat rather.
Yeah.
And we've only seen them go down the once. If they survive another fight long enough, DFM, for all their 1v9 potential in the world, they're up against the raid boss of Sol.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm looking down at Ari at 3-0-2 on Silas with 8 stacks.
Of course it
on
had to be.
On that Dark Seal.
Of course it had to be.
Udapon after that first death, got himself 4 assists, those 2 items. Like, there's so many tools here for both squads. I'm just looking over there, like, recap at 2.5 items. He's heading towards a Seraph's Embrace. I didn't call it a Seraphine's Embrace, but the songstress might have a lot of tools to work with. There's not an item named after it yet.
Evil Sona haunts us still.
There was some interesting job there with the writing law team for the non-KDA variety of Seraphine. I think largely they fixed that up, but the problem is the memes will never die by now, so it's too late. At this point, however, Force of Nature complete for Ebby as well. Interest has got the full mail as well to try and just be as obnoxious for the people auto-attacking as they can. Gang takes a massive chunk there from Sol to, as we mentioned, close to winning to that glacial... Frozen Heart, Glacial, not Glacial Heart. It's not quite that. We've got 20 seconds till Drake. Everybody is here. Meganar about half charged.
It's fun for all the family, not even just half of it. Every single one is in here. Your grandma, your dad, your kids, everyone's coming down to the bot lane party. It's the fight for the soul, the title card fight. And no, it's not just the AD carry, it's the dragons as well. Utapon has himself a Calibrum, has himself a Graviton, ways to set up for the fight. The question is, how willing a DFM to flip this? If you lose this dragon, you might lose your chance at first place in this split.
They need to buy time for Ebby. He's still at mini. He's a long way off Mega, in fact. But at the same time, the options from the side still very good. Gang! Gang! Bro! It's everything DFM wants, but look who's still alive! Sol's still out, and he blows up Steel! Now the continuing is going there. Ebby gets Mega, shoves back, Secret looking to go down, but Recap and Sol have got out for now, but not for long enough. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why they waited to bring this man in, why they made the roster. Alistair can take his goddamn horns off.
Taking the bull by the horns. No, the bull takes you all the way to the death chamber.
He gets it. Arya makes matters worse. There is salt in the gaping wound. He gets 2. And Detention, FocusMe are just too good.
They're too good. These are the greatest players of all time in each role for the LJL region You can put them behind in the early game, but you can not give them the entrance into the team fights. We praised Kazu last split. Well, Gang is Kazu plus. He is everything this team wanted and more. The full retreat sirens are hailed by Rascal Jester. They have some mobility. They do take down one. They take down a couple. But at that point, oh my god, how do you come back from a fight like that?
And we have seen so many sides of DFM this weekend. They destroyed, dismantled, humiliated teams yesterday. It was crushing. Today, it was a little bit of an interesting one with the LeBlanc Shaker return, and now it's been a close game. And you come out of a team fight where Aria does 5,500 damage by themselves. They're just too good.
Have I told you how much I like Aria today yet? Have I been through that? Okay, cool. Well, I guess we'll skip that for now.
I don't think he should be named Aria. He should be named Swan Song, because he is there to witness the death of every other team in the LJL.
Well, he used to be called Luna on his debut, but he is the rising sun in the land of the rising sun, particularly for DFM, and everyone in this game is basked in his holy radiance.
I wonder whether Luna has put on some weight recently, because I am telling you, the fat lady is singing and Aria is the one doing it. My days.
Oh, man. Bring it back to some sense of normality. I've used that phrase a lot over this weekend.
I mean, it's because there's been a lot of non-normality to work with.
It has been. And it's incredible how we go from DFM versus Axis, DFM versus CGA, and then Burning Core versus Sengoku. And then we have a game like this again. It is an absolute rollercoaster. We have it all here in the LJL. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey and seeing the play, seeing the fights, and seeing the end of this game. Because honestly, Rascal Jester is still very much in it. They have the Baron. They are still on, they have the Baron to the last out, rather, but they still have the Soul Point, and that's an Infernal Soul. We got 3.5 items coming in from Soul. If Soul doesn't get caught by the godlike plays, the game-winning plays of Gang, and lest I remind you, Spring 2020, we saw Gang in their second round robin. I mean, this is where the historical kind of nature of things come through. It was a very even game, going right up until the late game, until Gang gets a 5-man Rakan flank. This time it's on the Alistar. Doesn't matter what the champion is, it seems, as long as you have the ability to engage, he's going to find his man, or men, or cohort, or legion, who knows, he's going to find everyone he damn well pleases. Rascal Jesters will have to go into the next couple of fights that much more safe and secure, knowing that Gang cannot get that play again.
They do, but they've burnt big tools there. True Shot Barrage and the Mega Inferno Bomb now used to try and clear the wave. Didn't get a lot of damage onto the side of DFM though. And at this point as well, the wave's still shoving in. 2,500 gold. They're going to keep going onto the turret, and that's a big chunk. It's just gone. Can't hold on to it longer.
No, they can't, and Aria is keeping to go forward. Has, of course, the volley barrel at this point, but the Soul of the lands!
That's a big one, but yeah, but he's still alive. Big turnaround from Gang, and that is a stolen volley barrel ultimate as well. Aria just so strong. Gets Soul. It's a turnaround on Debbie. It's too late. Look who else has gone gold in this recap. And I don't think he can stay alive. He's trying. Gets him! The Mega Inferno Bomb. Steel's gone too deep, and they can hold on.
They can hold on, and it's through godlike plays yet and yet. Again, Aria caught out by the Ziggs ultimate just at the end of the play. It cost them an inhibitor tower, but not the inhibitor itself. And sadly for Rascal Jester, the death times for DFM are not going to match or overlap with the Dragon spawn. They will be up, they will be available, they will have their ability to come back and have another crack at that prize. It does buy them, though, just
Welcome back, LJLers. What a game. We expected the clash of titans. We started off with the Rascal Jesters looking confident in the early game. Some small advantages, bit of a 2v2 difference down there. As between Secret and Sol, they managed to pull out a bit of an advantage before the Aphelios gets going. They set up this damage Ezreal. It all comes to a fight around the third dragon, and what a fight
It was, and for me, like, I mean, we've made a lot of dietic references here, and we've got the Church of Aria. Might have to add another little pedestal in the pantheon to Gang, because I was simply, maybe to Zeus, because I was blinded by his radiance, and I've had to put these on. Take us through the clip if you got it. Sam, do you want to take us through the first part of this?
Absolutely.
When we started screaming.
Just look at Gang's angle. He's off vision. There is the speed up into 5-man headbutt pulverize. It's glorious. It's prime Wagyu. You could sell Gang off for millions after that one. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and so Temporal, what were your thoughts like going through that? Because obviously we were screaming. I can't remember the play that well.
I was wondering whether you wanted to, actually give out your thoughts this time. Nope, that is huge patience from Gang. They see the coalescence. Ah, nice. The coalescence of multiple members of Rascal Justice together. They take the moon forward. It's not the end of the world, but then Gang, with the patience, manages to pull off a honestly split-defining headbutt pulverize. Aria does play cleanup crew at the end, but that was the Gang show, pulling it all together, giving Steel a way in on the Xin Zhao to be that disruptive frontline. All of Rascal Jester's answers there, just thrown into an invincible wall that does not respect them. And from there on forwards, all DFM had to do was get the mop and bucket, because they'd pretty much cleaned house.
It was pretty cool to watch. And, like, in fairness, it wasn't like the Jesters played entirely badly. Like, Sol and Recap bring up mad damage and great turnarounds. Kinatu in the one that got them the soul fight as well teleports in. Hallowed Mist to survive. Does her own little Xin Zhao impression with all the immune statements coming out and the rage that's caused across solo queue since she's been released. But it wasn't quite enough. And it did feel like a clash between two good teams. Maybe there were a couple errors and a couple oversteps, but both teams were trying so very hard to win that game. But DFM, and we take hats off to Gang, and rightly so, but you saw Aria on the Silas looking pretty disgusting as well. Ebby's flanks, there was some serious caliber of play from both of these teams, so I was very excited to see.
And that's the important thing for me, right? Because it's not that DFM was struggling and stooping down to another level. They just had to overcome, rise above what Rascal Jesters did. What a fantastic game. This might be one of my all-time favorite LJL games.
I had an absolute blast. I don't know about you two. Anything we sort of want to close with on that game? We've gone through it very quickly, but
bring on a tiebreaker. Bring on tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker and Juggernaut, Matt. It's all I want.
Oh, imagine. That's a dream for me today. When the high was that high, the rest we've mentioned some of Rascal Jester's good points, but can you really compare anything to that peak, that pinnacle of Gang? Not once, but twice. Just destroying Rascal Jester with these huge headbutt pulverizers. I think Replay had the great thing of just, his Ziggs bomb hit only the MVP. It only hit Gang and did half of himself. That was like, that was the
actual. You knew the threat.
That was the actual.
He just wanted some prime seared Wagyu. That's all he was after. That little bit of wanted that prize-winning steak coming to his plate.
And with that, it was slightly too hot in the kitchen for Rascal Jesters this week. They may get another look in if DFM continue current form. A Juggernaut match is not off the table. That's all for me today. We're going to hit it to a quick break. When we come back, we are looking at V3 versus the SoftBank Hawks as that middle of the pack looks to break apart to finalize our Super Week.